Hey guys, Smurf back here again to have a deck tech for you about Sturdy Nerds, which is the deck I played in King of the Hill last night to 5 wins. It felt very strong. That was my first iteration of the deck. The list I have for you is kind of my updated version that I would change it to. And thanks again to Christian Young for hosting King of the Hill. You should check out his channel, Blue vs. Orange TCG. That's where he runs the King of the Hill. It's most Fridays. And this deck just was really sweet, honestly. So thanks again for him hosting it so I could play it. It's a cool mid-range combo deck that has very mid-rangey elements, hits for solid damage, and can have like a combo finish. It is a little bit weaker to heavy aggro because your flips aren't going to be as consistent, but when you get rolling, it's sweet. So we have the Sturdy Boys core to start at the heart of the deck. Your Alpha Trion, your Autobot Sovereign, and your Huffer. Alpha Trion and Sovereign cost 14 stars, but you get one back, so it's essentially 13 stars. Alpha Trion's your bread and butter for the deck. He's a big character, but he gives all sturdy characters +2 attack, and he gives all Autobots focus when he's in body mode. And Huffer's just the cheapest sturdy character around. He's banned in full con, but he's legal in T1, which lets us play him. And just getting that combo of 6 attack on your 4 star or your 5 star that doesn't flip is pretty big, since it means that you can just lead with this solid attacker who's probably not getting one shot. Sea Spray is what I chose to fill out the other slot of the deck with, and I needed a specialist so I could play the Lost in Research stratagem that was in this set. Since Alpha Trion in body mode is also a specialist, so with 2 specialists you can get some really sweet like heavy attack turns and you get the extra card draw, which is probably the most important thing with this deck. Gives you the closing power you really need when you build up these hands. You could also play Highbrow Malware Brigadier in that slot too, instead of Sea Spray. I think he's my sideboard character going forward against aggro, where I don't need the extra damage output since they're not defending very much. And the extra defense can come in handy. He's also still a specialist, which gives us the strat. So, to jump into the deck, we have a lot of cards because Alpha Trion is a graveyard deck. He has Knack as a flip ability, so you want to have your graveyard exist without reshuffling too often, and when we're drawing extra cards due to Lost in Research, we rip through our deck much faster than normal. So, to turn on our Lost in Research, which requires us to play 3 cards from our hand in a turn, we have Brainstorm, we have Confidence, we have War of Attrition, we have Reverse Engineer. So those are the cards that we have that can turn on our Lost in Research. We also have things like just a bunch of battle pumps, like Leap into Battle, Bigger They Are, Master Metallicado. We have a supporting fire in here, so we can kill untapped characters on our big turns. We have a Valiant Effort, since Alpha Trion is a leader. So we just have like these good cards on top of like a small secret action package. Very similar to the full con deck, where you just get to play a lot of like the best cards. It does come at a cost though, because the heavy aggro decks, I don't think the VOD from King of the Hill caught it last night, but this deck did get really beat up on by the new Herald strategy that gets to play the new Cyclonus, Legend Megatron, and Scourge with triple particle cannon. Like, that deck just kind of didn't give me a chance to set up. But against the other like controlling mid-range strategies, you have a pretty good advantage over them, just because you get all these value cards and they're not going to hit you nearly as hard as these other aggro decks. And so we have like 30 actions in this deck because we want to be playing 2 a turn or more to maximize our Lost in Research once it's enabled. You also get to backdoor into Energized with this deck, which I kind of like, so it's not like a hardcore devoted Energized strategy, but since we want to be playing Reverse Engineer anyway, we need some upgrade removal, so I chose Catch and Release, which is from the set. It's basically a smelt that KOs the upgrade instead of your opponent putting it in their scrap. Doesn't get a green pip though, but when we have energized, I believe it's energized 4, Oh, Energize 3, sorry. You get to put a card from your own KO on the bottom of your deck. So if the opponent had KO'd some of your cards previously, you just get to recycle those back into your deck's rotation. So that's a really cool, just like value play you get, even though it's mostly just used for removal. Take No Prisoners is a one of just because it's a burn spell in the late game. And then we have like Reinforced Hull on our upgrades, which I'll talk about a little bit more once I get to the upgrades, but that one prevents moving damage, so it gives you some tools in the main deck against Seekers. And then because we're Alpha Trion, we obviously have Will of the Protocols in there. So this deck just gets to draw a ton of cards, gets to see a lot of cards, and always have good options. The big one here is Follow Through. So it's probably the best orange card selection card in the game. I'm going to start by saying that. I played only one last night, and I went up to two after that because the card is just so strong. So without a mission completed, it's Anticipate from Magic, where it's look at the top three, put one in your hand, which is fine selection, especially on an orange pip. Aggro decks kind of needed some card selection, and that's a way to get it to them. But when we complete a mission, it's play the best card out of the top three of your deck, because you look at the top three, put one in your hand, and then when you complete a mission, you get to play one from your hand, which leads to some crazy turns. Like if you find a grenade launcher off of that, you get to play that. You find a Metallicado off of that, you get to play that. And if you have since you have a mission completed, it means your Lost is completed. You've now played two actions, so it's a +2 attack on top of your Metallicado, and you just get ridiculous damage output that way. So that's kind of the action suite we're working with. It's been pretty consistent just being able to turn on Lost in Research, as well as pump out a lot of damage output in the late game and mid game, so that you're not flopping on damage output, which a lot of blue based decks can do. I mean, we have 33 blue pips in this deck, so you can defend reasonably, even if it's not like the best defense, because we're not having tough or anything. But you get consistent numbers, I would say. Moving on to the upgrades, we have 18 in the deck. We have 2 Energon Axe, 2 Grenade Launcher, 2 Handheld Blaster, a Noble's Blaster for our weapons, a Bashing Shield, 2 Guardian Shells, and a Reinforced Hull for our armors, and then we have 3 Matrix, 1 Pocket Processor, 1 Spy Satellite, 1 Absorption Core, and 1 Reflector Cell for our utilities. So starting with the weapons, Axe, Grenade Launcher, and Nobles are just really good upgrades to play. For in the weapon slot, the handheld blasters are strictly there for pips, though it can, when you have Metallicado and things like that come up, that you want to have the bold. But for the most part, you're only playing 2 because you don't want them to clog up your hand, but you do want to be able to flip them when you need it. That's a pretty straightforward, I would say, upgrade package. The armors, on the other hand, you have Bashing Shield, 2 Guardian Shell, and a Reinforced Hull. So Alpha Trion and Sea Spray are both boats, which means that when they're in alt mode, you can pick up Reinforced Hull on the flip. And it's got very relevant text, so it's a +1 armor already, so that's just fine. But when you're against characters in Combiner mode, Body mode, or Legend mode, you get an additional defense. So that's a 2 defense armor, which is really solid right there. And then also when you have Energize 2, which Energize 2 is pretty easy to get with this deck, I would say. They can't move damage to the upgraded character, so it is like a pseudo hollow matter that stops moves. So against Seekers and Heralds, things like that want to be constantly moving damage, you can put this on your big guy, and especially on a sturdy guy, it means that they can't move the damage or deal direct damage to them unless it's more than increments of 1. So you kind of just like lock out any sort of ways of killing those characters or hurting them out of combat. The Guardian Shells and the Bashing Shields are just like solid armors there. The Guardian Shells draw a card to help us cycle them when we're trying to find 3 card plays in a turn. The Repair can come up. Bashing Shields there just to remove Force Field for the most part. So pretty straightforward armor package. Moving on to the utilities, we have 3 Matrix. Alpha Trion is a leader, and it's 2 pips for his Knack ability, and Metallicados and Despites. So just a pretty free card in the deck. When you get it paired up with like your Sea Sprays and your Huffers, like turn 1, flip Alpha Trion, Matrix him if you're going second. Swing Huffer, you're all of a sudden swinging for with a 7 Pierce 1 on your first attack. That's like Wind Charger levels, except it's with your 5-star. Just the card is really good. You don't have to play it on Alpha Trion 2. It's always just a +1 utility on any of our other characters since they're all leaders. Or all Autobots. And the Pocket Processor might be a little overkill in this deck. I liked it because when I got that going with Lost in Research, it never felt like I was low on cards. Without the Pocket Processor, Lost in Research can be kind of taxing where you can't use the ability as often as you'd like and have to kind of take some turns off. But with it, you're essentially getting that extra draw, allowing you to still net 1 card when you use the discard ability. Spy Sentinel is kind of just there for Brave and Stealth. Same with the End of the Road in the action slot. It's just there to have a way to attack who you want to attack, and being a +1 attack utility is never bad at thing. Absorption Core, pretty straightforward as well, just a way to stop your characters from getting pinged out when you are against decks that will like to do lots of increments of 1 for direct damage. Putting that on Sea Spray, and then you have 2 sturdy characters and a Sea Spray, they're kind of in a soft lock where they can't burn out any characters. And then the Reflector Cell, it can be an armor in a pinch since it goes in the armor slot. Just another way to repair, bounce crucial upgrades that you need to bounce from the opponent's side. Really good card in the end. Moving on to the sideboard, like I said, I would probably sideboard the 6-star Highbrow just for aggro matchups. But we have 3 Force Field, another Bigger They Are, a Gyro Blaster, a Turn the Tide, another End of the Road, 2 Buckle Down, and a Reinforced Hull. So Reinforced Hull and Buckle Down are for the Seekers and Heralds matchups where you just want to have them not be able to move damage, so your damage actually will stick on them. One of the hardest things playing against those decks with something like this is that you won't kill their characters in one shot, and then they'll play an effect that causes them to move multiple damage at once. And it's almost like you just field what they're trying to do, since Sturdy won't reduce that. So both these cards just say, like, the damage can't be moved. The End of the Road, we kind of talked about in the main deck as well. It's just another way to punch through. Brave, against Rally, Alita, it's a way to stop B from healing when you hit them. Turn the Tide's a weird one, but that's another one where against Decepticon teams, if they're trying to move a bunch of damage, you just move it right back. It could probably be something else. I want to try a Turn the Tide in the board, just because, again, if like Seekers or Heralds has a way to move a bunch of damage to you, you just move it right back, and it's just throw it right back at them, negate what they were trying to do. Gyro Blaster is there for the heavy, bold, and tough decks. Our deck doesn't rely on bold or tough, and we only have 4 white pips in the main, so we're not really reliant on flipping multiple cards per combat, so Gyro Blaster is pretty free there, and it's just a really good card to have access to in the board. Bigger They Are is there for big blue, or anything that you want your little guys to punch through. When your Lost in Research is completed, if you play Bigger They Are on Sea Spray, he goes from 3 Pierce 2 immediately to 6 Pierce 6 because he's a specialist, so he'll be 3. You play Bigger They Are, that'll put him to 5 attack, and then you get +1 from playing an action with Lost in Research that puts him to 6 attack. So 6 Pierce 6, you're going to chunk some characters with that. And then the force fields are just there for the aggro matchup. As I said before, aggro is really hard for this kind of deck to beat when it's putting pressure on you, so you don't have times to kind of take that turn off to enable your mission to turn on. So just having a way to survive is pretty big, because if they're playing an armor, they're not playing a weapon. That's the other thing. If they're bashing your force field, they're not playing a weapon that turn. And that's almost just good enough. So, ways you'd play this deck, going like in the game, a lot of times you want to flip Alpha Trion turn 1 and send your Huffer if you're going first. If you're going second, you can always play a pump or play a weapon or play like a Matrix or something on one of your other characters and send Huffer again. You're going to be your lead attacker. Alpha Trion is always going to be your lead flipper. And it's just one of the best leads in the game, getting a 6 attack focus 1 character who's not really getting one shot. Second turn, you don't even have to play anything either, because this deck wants to play 3 things in a turn, so if you want to bank cards so that you have enough to pop off with Lost in Research as fast as possible, that's also a valid play since your base attack is so high you don't need to amplify it a lot of times. Then turn 2, you'll flip Sea Spray. This is where it gets interesting. You can either send Alpha Trion second for base 9 without any upgrades or pumps, thanks to him being the biggest character with Sea Spray and Sturdy himself. Or you can send Sea Spray after flipping him and save Alpha Trion if you think that you can one-shot a character with Lost in Research the following turn. Usually I would do that if you know that you have a solid hand and can put out a lot of damage, and you can turn on the mission with Sea Spray's turn, so you kind of, because Sea Spray has Pierce, so he's always going to deal some damage. So if you can take Sea Spray's turn off to enable your mission, whether that's by going Confidence, Action, Upgrade, or Reverse Engineer, KO their thing, play an upgrade, play another upgrade, Brainstorm double action, stuff like that. War of Attritions, which is very good in this deck. If you get to the point where you can triple war someone, especially when the Lost in Research is completed, you're getting a leap into battle that heals you for 3 and deals 3 to your opponents. It's also just another way to, I've said it before, it's another way to turn on Lost in Research, so basically Sea Spray's turn, if you can turn on Lost in Research, is your turn to take off, and then you'll send in a giant Alpha Trion swing the following turn. So I had games where, like, I went crack Lost in Research card, play Metallicato on Trion, +1 attack. When Sea Spray's alive, so all of a sudden he's at 10 base. Action for turn, play follow through. Since I completed a mission, that's another attack. We're at 11 base on Trion. Hit another Metallicato or hit another pump, play that. That's +1 from that other action. And you just start basically having this ability to one-shot most characters. I think this deck also has a really good matchup into what's looking to be another solid Titan 1 deck in the the Astro Train deck, because Alpha Trion gives your entire squad focus while he's in body mode, and Astro Train's Revenge ability only hits characters without focus, so as long as you can keep him in that mode, the Revenge from the Astro Train won't be able to punch through. As well as you have the damage output to beat up on their Slipstream, which is secretly the character you like really want to kill in that deck as fast as possible more than anything. Playing against this deck, though, I think that heavy aggro Heralds is a good choice. Aggro Seekers is also probably a good choice. The blue Seekers deck is probably like a 50-50 or like a 60-40 in your favor, but it still can win if they get the move damage loops going. Big characters, though, like Snapdragon is really good into this deck, as well as Private Turbo Board. I don't think Turbo Board's the best character, but it is a good character into this. But Snapdragon's huge. So Snapdragon's bot mode says that if an opponent would draw more than one card during their turn, so basically a card outside of their draw phase, they have to scrap a card after they draw that card. So your Lost in Research is you draw the card, then you can choose to scrap a card to play in action, but then you have to scrap an additional card because of Snapdragon, and since the Lost in Research draw isn't a May, it's a mandatory play you have to make, and so that taxes your hand extremely hard, and Pocket Processor won't save you from that because that would be another card you'd have to scrap because of Snapdragon. He also turns off things like your Confidence and just other ways that you're trying to fill your hand. So, I know a lot of people don't like Snapdragon, but he is a very good card to play. People should probably play Snapdragon more, even if they don't like him, because he's arguably one of the best characters in the game, if not the best non-Titan Master, non-Legend in the game. Alright, so that's the Sturdy Nerds deck that I played in King of the Hill last night. Again, I recommend checking out the VOD on Christian Young's channel, Blue vs. Orange TCG. And yeah, let me know what you guys are building for ATP6, what you think you're going to play in the Titan 1 monthly coming up. I think this deck has probably solidified itself as the deck I want to play. So, with that, thank you. See you next time.